Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm going to be sharing 5 of the best books I've read so far in 2023, along with some honorable mentions. I've had a fantastic reading year so far. Even if I haven't die-hard loved every single book that I've read, I've really enjoyed the overall process of reading. I feel like that excitement for reading is just back in my life, and it feels really good. We are at the midpoint in the year, and I hope that there are more books that I end up loving, but I just wanted to share my top 5 so far with you today. And before we get to it, today's video has a sponsor. Today's video is being sponsored by Book of the Month. If you don't know anything about Book of the Month, let me fill you in. Book of the Month is a monthly book subscription service that allows you to fill your home book collections with new exciting reads. Each month, their team puts together a unique list of books with a wide range of genres, from mystery, romance, thrillers, to fantasy, to sci-fi. They're always bringing in a variety of genres. It's an affordable way to make sure you're bringing in fresh new books to your collections. Not only do they sometimes offer up popular books, but they also will introduce you to books you've never heard of before, and that's something that I always appreciate about Book of the Month. They also offer a skip option. If you're not feeling a specific month's selection of books, you can easily skip a month and you won't be charged. Let's go over my selections for July. In the blue Book of the Month box, we've got Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I read and loved These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Did I ever continue on with the series? No. Are we surprised by that? No. Who's bad at series? Me! That is me! But I did love the first book. I loved These Violent Delights, and that has me excited about this one. These Violent Delights was a loose retelling of Romeo and Juliet. This one is also a loose retelling of a Shakespeare piece, and that is of Antony and Cleopatra, so I'm definitely looking forward to diving into this one. This is also Chloe Gong's debut adult fantasy, so I'm eager to see how she kind of levels things up in this one. Then I got one of the add-on options this month. Book of the Month offers add-on options. If you see a book you fancy and you want to add it on to that month's book pick, they make it easy peasy. The book that I added on is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I feel like I always hear such varying opinions on Riley Sager's work, and that has me intrigued. I want to see where I land with his work. That only makes me excited to read his work and find out how I feel about it. This one seems to be somewhat different from his past books. This one is a gothic thriller, and I'm looking forward to getting into it. Those were my picks for this month, but it was hard to choose because there were a lot of awesome options this month, which I will go over those right now. We've got The First Ladies, a historical fiction, Hello Stranger, a romance, The Connollys of County Down, a contemporary fiction, Dark Corners, a thriller, and then of course the last option was Immortal Longings. I love Book of the Month, and I highly recommend their service. It's a great way to add books to your collection in an affordable way. I will leave a link down below in the description with more information for you guys, and you can use the code Jesse to get your first book for only $9.99. Be sure to go down below in the description and click the link. Now it's time to get back to the video. Again, I am going to be going over 5 books today, but I do have some honorable mentions. 2 of them just didn't make the list because I've talked about them a lot recently, and I just didn't want to be redundant in talking about them and just say the same things over and over again. And then one of them just didn't quite make this list, but I did love it. I did really enjoy it. I want to hear from you guys as well though. Have you read any of the books on my list? Or just let me know some of your favorites from the year so far. Hit me with them book recs. Let's get started. The first book on my list I have here is Slay. This is not a new book by any means. It came out quite a while ago. I am late to the party, but I'm here to party. Let's party. Let's do the dang thing. I read and loved The Cost of Knowing last year. Was that last year? Oh, time has been bleeding together, my friends. Anyway, I read and loved The Cost of Knowing, and I knew that I wanted to pick up more books by Brittany Morris, so I was happy to pick up Slay this year and read it finally. And not to be cliche and not to make a joke that is right under all of our noses, but it was a slay. Slay, slay, slay. Oh my god. In this book we follow Kira, who is almost living a double life. During the day she's living that average life. She's going to school, she's going through the motions of being young, and then by night she is a game developer and is fully in control of this game called Slay. The game was created for Black gamers as a way to create a safe space online. But when something goes terribly wrong and the game receives public attention and public criticism, Kira must do everything she can to protect the game and also protect her own mental health. This is one of those books where I would just consider it one of the most well-balanced books. It has so much going for it, and as you reach the end of the book, you just feel that satisfied feeling that not every book leaves you with, and this book definitely has you ending up with satisfaction. Video game element is really fun. As a gamer myself, I obviously love books that have a gaming element within them, and I just feel like it added such a fun layer to a contemporary story. Then we have all these characters that have all these different things on their plate, and there's conflict and deep conversations between each and every one of them. Then we have the chaos that comes from the game receiving kind of that public attention and public criticism, and that itself opens up the door to this discussion on racism. This book is just very close to perfection. I don't know if I like it more than The Cost of Knowing, but it's a very close second. They're almost tied. I think I liked The Cost of Knowing a little bit more, but it also has a lot to do with grief, so maybe that's why, because I'm trash for that theme. But I loved Slay. I highly recommend Slay. Again, this book has been out a while, so I am late to the party. I feel like a majority of you guys have already read and loved this book, but I'm late to the party, but I'm here, I'm in attendance, and I'm excited to rave about Slay. Also, I would love to see this one be adapted. I feel like it just lends itself well to that kind of format. So if any Hollywood people are watching and we make that happen, can you snatch up this book and turn it into a movie, turn it into a TV show, something, give me something? I wish it were that simple, just to be like, can somebody make this? And then it'd be made. That'd be amazing. The next one on my list is a short story, actually. Let me scoot over so I can put the book on the screen, and that is The Six Deaths of the Saint. This story follows a servant girl who is on her deathbed. This story follows a servant girl who is on her deathbed, and the Saint of War spares her life in order for her to fulfill her destiny, that being becoming the greatest warrior of the kingdom. I think I initially gave this short story a 4-star rating, but I'm gonna take a time machine, go back in time, shake some sense into me, and I'm moving up that rating, baby. It's going up to a full-on 5-star. 5 out of 5 stars. I'm not sure what I was thinking in the moment, because the more that I've sat with this story, the more that I've realized it is deserving of a 5-star rating. Now, this is a short story. It's literally 30 pages and you can inhale it incredibly fast. Short stories rarely hit for me, but this one hit. Boom, boom, pout itself into my heart, you guys. It's a melancholy story about the desire to be desired. Everyone wants to feel love, but sometimes that can be complicated. Even beyond that, we all want to feel appreciated and valued for our existence. And this short story delves into those topics in a way that you don't expect it to. And then on top of that, you don't really expect it to execute it in the way that it does. Like, I feel like it's hard to really explore kind of hard-hitting topics in short stories in such a short amount of time. Like, you feel like it doesn't allow enough time to really cover everything and the depths of everything. And sure, there could be room to explore these topics in a longer format, but it nails it. Takes the nails, whacks them in. It's done so well. I continue to think about this story, and I know that it's one that I will continue to revisit and reread. The writing was one of my favorite parts of it as well. It's told in second person. It really puts you in the shoes of the main character, and it made you feel like the main character a bit, and I was obsessed with that. If you want 30 pages that will come into your life and completely wreck you, then here's the door, and all you've got to do is open it. Next up here, I've got The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I am a ride or die for Ashley Poston at this point. I love several of her books. I haven't read all of her books now that I think about it. I've only really read the Geekarella trilogy, but I still would consider myself a big fan, and this solidified that fact. I loved The Dead Romantics. In The Dead Romantics, we are following our main character, Florence, who is a ghostwriter who has stopped believing in love. And this is hard for her because she is ghostwriting for a famous romance author. And when you've found yourself in a place where you don't believe in love, it's hard to write about love. When an incident involving her father has her fleeing back to her hometown, the place that she avoids, she is haunted by her past. And not only by her past, but a ghost. Florence meets a ghost here, one that is unexpected and one she is confused by as to why this ghost is in her hometown. It has that lighthearted feel that Ashley Poston is known for. If you've read any book by Ashley Poston, again, I don't mean to say any book because I haven't read all of her books yet, but the Geekarella trilogy in particular has this like very lighthearted, bubbly feeling to it. And this book reflects that a lot, even though it does deal with a lot of hard-hitting topics. The one in particular is grief. Surprise, surprise, a book about grief. Jesse loved a book about grief. Who would have thought? Jesse the death lover over here. Oh my god. I am trying to like branch out of only reading books about death, you guys, okay? I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. Bear with me. But this does deal with grief in a very unique way. In fact, that's what I would describe this book as. It's very unique. The play of her being able to see ghosts and then her also being a ghostwriter was just such a fun little element to implement within the story. I loved that. There's also this like really nice family element. Florence really avoids going back to her hometown. She doesn't really like going back to it because there's just a lot with her past that she does not like reconnecting with, and that kind of can make things complicated when she's been away from her family for so long and then she's coming back and kind of having to pick up the pieces again, and that does not come easily. And I like seeing her kind of working her way back into her family and reconnecting with her siblings and her mom and just figuring that all out. And also there were just so many lovely surprising moments throughout this story, and I just can't recommend this enough. Especially if you love romance books, but you've been looking for something that's a little bit more on the unique side of things, then I would definitely recommend checking this one out. The next book on my list is one that, again, I am late to the party for. But I'm here, okay? I'm attending the party. I just am quite a few years late. But that is The Poppy War. I would just include the full trilogy, but I think The Poppy War is my favorite, I think. That's actually kind of hard to choose a favorite because honestly, the trilogy as a whole is fantastic. Probably one of the best trilogies, one of the most fulfilling trilogies I've read in a very long time. In The Poppy War, we follow Rin, and she shocks everyone when she aces the empire-wide test to find the most talented youth. This gives her the opportunity to escape her unfortunate life. She's kind of in a bit of a rough family situation, home situation, and it will give her the chance to leave that situation and train at the Senegard military school. But she'll soon find out that she's going from one rough spot to another rough spot. She will face a lot of struggles while she is at this school training. She's surrounded by these judgy Nepo babies who consistently undermine her and try to make her the butt of their jokes, and then also just like the training on top of everything. It's just a lot. Also, while at this school, Rin will discover a power that she has within herself, and a professor will help her kind of unlock and reveal more information about this power. Rin has always believed that the gods are dead, but here she will learn that they are very much so alive and that she will work with them in some capacity. I feel like I did such a horrible job explaining this book. There are so many layers to it, and by the end of it, it's evolved into something so completely different than what this first book delivers. And that's honestly something that I loved about this book. It just progressively gets more intense and darker and more interesting, honestly. The more that you read it, the more intriguing it gets. It was a refreshing fantasy read for me, and it had everything going for it. From political intrigue to fantastic characters, even though a lot of the characters are unlikable, amazing character interactions and dialogue, mystery and action, pain, lots of pain, all of it. A beautifully packaged book. I feel like the thing that you hear the most when hearing about the Poppy War is just how heartbreaking it is. And I feel like for me, my experience before picking up this book, I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I feel like all of you guys are just being over dramatic, because sometimes that's like what people do. Like, they'll hype up a book and they'll be over dramatic about the elements within the story. Like, people will be like, this book came into my life, took me to my library room, tied me up, and made me watch it as it burned all my books down, and I cried for 7 weeks and it finally let me go. Like, people can be over dramatic in that sense, and by people, I mean me. Me. I do that often. I can't say that I'm sorry though, you know? Because what is life without the drama? I bring the drama. A dramaless life is a boring life. That's all I gotta say about that. But anyway, going into this one, I feel like all I had heard about it is that it was a painful reading experience. There were so many trigger warnings, and to prepare myself emotionally. And I was over here just like, okay, sure, Jan, whatever. Now that I've read it, I get it. And I will say, okay, Jan, you were right, Jan. It hurts. But actually for me, like, going in with those expectations, it exceeded them. The pain is real. The pain was felt. It is a very emotionally draining reading experience. It is fulfilling. Like, you read it and you get a lot out of it. At least I did. And I know that a lot of other people have gotten a lot out of it. But it was one of those books for me where I really had to just like take a deep breath after reading it and kind of decompress, because it is a lot. And because of the fact that this book is historical fantasy and it's based on a real event that occurred, just knowing that makes it that much more of a horrific reading experience. It makes that processing stage just so much tougher. I'm gonna leave my friend Tiffany's blog post that goes deeper into like the historical references in this story, because I feel like she executes it better than I ever could. But just reading through that blog and kind of just making the connections, it's painful, man. It makes it even more painful. It's a book filled to the brim with unlikable characters. Like, there's not one character that you will be like, oh, I love this character. Like, every character has traits that you love and that you hate. They all have these things that make them morally gray. But I'm glad to say that I finally read the Poppy War trilogy and that I loved every bit of it. I am late to the party, but there is nothing wrong with waiting a little while to read a popular book. In fact, sometimes I think it's the better method, because you don't have everybody's opinions coming at you and you can just think for yourself. But I did end up loving it, like most people have loved the Poppy War trilogy. The hype behind this one is well deserved in my opinion, and that's all I will say. The last book on my best books of 2023 so far list, before I get to the honorable mentions, is Kaleidoscope by Brian Selznick. I was hesitant in putting this book on my list because while I adore it and I love it and it's definitely a new favorite book, I do not recommend it. Which sounds silly, but it's just not a book that will be like well received by everybody. Like, it's definitely going to be a hit for some people. It's going to be a big miss for a lot of people. It's not a style that everybody's going to love, and that's okay. Not every book is for everybody, but this book was definitely for me. I love it. It embedded itself into my heart, that's for sure. Fully stitched itself into me. It's kind of a collection of short stories, but I feel like it's like pieces of a bigger story. Like each story is a bit of a puzzle piece and they all tie together in some kind of way. It's the story of two people and they are bound to each other through time and space and memory and dreams. It's very much so a book that is left open-ended, which is part of the reason why I don't think a lot of people would like it, because I just don't think that a lot of people vibe with that style. And this one is open-ended in a different way, because you just have like all these pieces of a story and you have to be willing to put in a lot of work to make it make sense, because truthfully, without the reader's effort, things won't click. You have to be open and willing to take on what this book has to offer, and it's not a complete formula. You're not handed all the answers. You have to take a step back, reassess, realize that it's up to you, and then come back to the formula and try to make sense of everything. But that experience is not for everybody, and I recognize that 100%, but it was 100% for me, and I adored every bit of it. I loved the writing style. I honestly will stand by the fact that I think Brian Selznick is a mastermind when it comes to writing. Like, I eat up his stories and I will be a ride or die for him until the day that I die. The visuals were amazing. There are images throughout the story. With each story you get a visual and then a kaleidoscoped version of that visual, and it's a book that made me think so deeply. It made me think about love and friendship and grief and time. And I think something that is so special about this book is the fact that everybody's going to have a different interpretation of it by the end of it, because of the fact that it is one of those books where it's mostly left up to you. Like, you are given these pieces and you are to do with them what you want to do with them. And I love that. I love that everybody's going to leave this book feeling so differently. Like, that's so exciting to me. But again, I recognize the fact that this is not ideal for a lot of people, and I'm not going to sit here and like rave about it and hype it up for people, because I just don't want to recommend it and then have people hate it. But if you're the type of person that likes the kind of books that I like, where you're willing to put in the work, you're willing for things to not fully make sense right away, and the idea of stitching the story together excites you, then I would recommend it. But I'm not recommending it. Nope, I don't recommend it. In fact, this book is only for me. I'm gatekeeping it, so don't touch it. Don't touch. I do have some honorable mentions. Two of them are just ones that I didn't want to mention because I've mentioned them so much recently, and I just didn't want to like bore you guys to tears by giving you the same thing over and over again. Those two are House of Hollow and We Need to Do Something. This story is about these sisters who at one point went missing, and when they came back, they could not recall where they went, and they also changed completely physically. And it's about 10 years later, one of the sisters goes missing again, and she's left all these clues to find out where she is, and the other sisters are looking for her and trying to track her down. And as they do so, they start to remember things about the first time that they went missing. It's YA horror. I love it. It's very like whimsically, flowery, all that good stuff that I love. We Need to Do Something is about this family that takes cover in a bathroom during a tornado warning, and they're already going through a lot internally within their family relationship, and then adding on that layer of the external things that are happening, like the tornado warning and being in the bathroom. It forces them to just like confront their issues and figure things out, but things take a turn and it is crazy. This book is so weird. There's lots of trigger warnings in here, so look that up if you are intrigued by this one, but it's very much so experimental horror, and it made me excited about the idea of reading more books like it. And then finally, I have the Bromance Book Club. This is an adult romance story about this guy whose marriage is falling apart, and he ends up in this book club, and they're all reading romance books to kind of learn how to be better partners and stuff like that. And it's about the book club kind of coming into his life and him wanting to fix his marriage and save his marriage, and it's just very wholesome and lighthearted and fun, but there are also moments in it that are hard-hitting and are hard to read about because this marriage is falling apart and you see the ins and outs of that, but it's also a story of healing. And I think that that's beautiful, and I definitely recommend the Bromance Book Club. If you are a romance reader, you want to get more into romance, I definitely recommend this one. There are more books in this series that I definitely want to get to at some point, but I just haven't had the chance to pick up those books yet. Those are 5 of my top books of 2023 so far. I'm excited to get to the end of the year. Well, I mean, I don't want to rush it. Let's take our time to get to the end of the year. But I'm excited to see if I end up falling in love with any more books by the end of the year. I'm sure that I will. That's the hope, obviously. I would love to read some more amazing books. So if you guys have any recommendations, let me know down below in the comments what some of your favorite books of 2023 have been so far. I'm always in need of recommendations, and if I'm going to get recommendations from anybody, it's going to be from you guys, because you guys are the best. Again, thank you to Book of the Month for sponsoring today's video. If you want to know more information on Book of the Month, then check them out down below in the description. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye, yo.